We're back again. We're back from being gone again. Sporadically.
Yes. Well, Claude is a little bit of a perfectionist and didn't like the last recording, so decided to redo them.
Yes.
Which is fine because we want to give you the best possible product we can, don't we?
Yeah. And I've just quit my job.
Yes.
So now all of my attention, well, most of my attention is going into the podcast.
Yay.
And it was not up to standard. So if you're wondering why we took a month-long hiatus after taking a 2-month-long hiatus and we're releasing one episode, that's why.
Yes. Quite a lot goes into these.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's good. But we are getting fantastic feedback. I personally have received some great feedback from people who have been listening in and saying, and particularly commenting on the quality of the production, which is all down to you, my darling.
Well, what can I say? Anyway, today we're talking about something that I think is fairly fundamental to this whole attitude towards sex and non-linear lovemaking, etc. And that's the language that you use.
Yes, language is so essential.
Mm-hmm. But before we get into that shit, how has your week been?
It's been a pretty good week.
Yeah. How has your month been?
Been a pretty good month.
Is there something erotic you'd like to share? Should we redefine erotic? I feel like we haven't done that. Go, erotic. What is it? Define.
So when we talk about erotic, when we say what's been an erotic moment or time in the last week, what we're really talking about is when we're feeling really tuned in with that life force, because our life force energy it's a sexual energy. Sexual energy is a life force, yeah? So what we're talking about here is when did we really feel aligned with that? And sometimes it will be related to a sexual type of experience, but other times it'll be more of just communing with nature or having deep conversations or just feeling in a state of flow. There's lots of ways that we can feel really feeling the life force flowing within us and around us and between us if we're engaging with others.
It's kind of like your inside going to the outside.
Yes.
Yeah. So what was yours this past week?
Well, my one is one that actually kind of relates to our more conventional definition of erotic.
Oh, sexy erotica.
It's a sexy erotica,
Yeah.
a more sensual erotica. It's a slight little BDSM-y type of erotica, actually.
Wow.
And that is a horsehair flogger.
Horsehair?
Yes. So I was having a nice encounter with a friend the other day, and he brought out his horsehair flogger, which I have to say feels absolutely amazing. It is literally made of horsehair. So if you don't know what a flogger is.
Like a tail or the mane?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know which part of the horse is from, but it was about, I don't know, like 20 centimeters and really pretty. So the thing about floggers is they can be used as a really lovely adjunct to your sexual and sensual play. Sometimes people go, oh my God, scary. Oh, that's flogging people. That's like wicked BDSM stuff. And it's like, oh no, if it feels good, it feels good, whatever it is. And like this one actually couldn't hurt in any possible way. But oh my God, as a tickler, fantastic. And some nice little gentle floggings over parts of the body with a lingering sort of flow at the end. It was, yes, that was a very erotic.
When he was asking you if it felt good, were you like, yay or nay?
Nay. We weren't role-playing being horsey.
That feels good.
Although, I mean, you could if you wanted to. That's so funny. No, I'm more of a sensualist. I'm not so much into kind of the role play sort of a thing. But some people could be. I'm totally fine if that's your gig. But me, no, I just love the sensation. Bit of a sensation slut.
Yes, and one that we'll do soon is the flavors of sex, and you'll we'll get to it.
That was so unclear, my darling. I don't think people know. So the 7 flavors of sex is one of my concepts where we talk about different ways of experiencing sexuality. Yes.
Yeah, and Mother Dearest is a sensualist.
Well, that's my primary sex flavor, yes.
Anyway,
Mm.
look out for that one.
Yes.
Look out for that one, and then you'll understand what I meant earlier.
Just fast forward. I mean, if you're listening to this and we've already done heaps and heaps, then like sometime in the future, then you can skip ahead. But if you're listening to them one by one.
We can't intertextually reference future episodes though, unfortunately.
No, because we're not that organised. Yeah. So darling, your erotic moment of the week or the month.
Yeah, well, mine's also sexy.
Woohoo!
Yeah,
Go us.
we're having sex. Yeah, my partner and I are just really having some gorgeous, amazing sex recently. It's very nice. Something that's been really helpful for us, which is kind of tied into this episode, I guess, is asking like, how do you want to play today, or like, what's your vibes? How are we feeling today? Like before we get into it, because usually we're good at talking about it afterwards, but not so much before. So we've been making an effort to talk about it before. Anyway, it's been really great. To like set the vibes, and even if it's like I don't know what I want, I just want to go on an exploration journey. So yep, that's been really helpful. And then another thing that's been really helpful, which is a very handy tip, which I did not know before. So if you are on top and you have a vagina, before I was riding with like both of my knees tucked back behind me, so I'm like sitting on my feet, and then lifting with my thighs and back hammies.
Yes.
Anyway, but my knees get very sore. I hurt them recently. Anyway, so that was getting really sore. So what I've been doing, I'll demonstrate for Instagram.
Oh wow, look at demonstration.
Yeah, so I'm sitting on one foot, whereas the other foot is like my foot is placed on the bed. Anyway, and then you put one hand on your person's chest and the other hand on their leg, and then you push them down into the bed as you're pushing yourself up.
Yes.
And it's so good because you can like lean all different ways with
yes.
your leg being up like that.
Yes.
And yeah, it's just so much, and like I feel so much more stronger. And
yes.
I've been leaving bruises on his chest from pushing him down so much. And because I've got like a really kind of bouncy bed, it's like wee, wee, wee. So it's quite fun. Anyway, and because I don't know if we've talked about it before, how like some angles are ouchy for me.
Yes. Well, probably for a lot of women.
Yeah. How like the deep ones are ouchy. Anyway, that's like that position is so easy to adjust, like really fast. Like, because if like I'm on the bottom, it can be a bit like, oh, excuse me, can you just, excuse me, sorry.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Whereas this way, it's just like, haha, I'm in control. Anyway, my partner has been really liking it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
wow. Like that's fantastic. I love that because I often have women coming to me saying, oh, I'm not quite sure how to do being on top, and sometimes it gets uncomfortable or it hurts. And yeah, that kind of thing that you're describing is wonderful. And I'm really big on, using your partner's body. So, either leaning forward onto their chest or leaning back. Another really good tip is if they've got their knees up, right? And then you can reach back behind you and put your hands on their knees.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's really good. And that gets you a lot of movement. And yeah, because otherwise it also just gets exhausting if you're trying to, especially if you want to do up and down.
Yeah.
The other thing I often say is like glide forwards and backwards rather than going up and down.
Yeah, but that's what's good about having that leg up is you've got that like 360.
Yeah, you can go around and back, forward and back and a bit of up and down, especially if you're using their body.
Sometimes I'll put my feet on his shoulders as well.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Lots of very good. Lots of fun being had in my sex life recently.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah.
Nothing nicer than knowing that your children are having great sex. And my children let me know, which is so wonderful. Like, hopefully partly what we're modeling here is to have that really good connection, between the generations and parents and children and so forth. But I sometimes still get a little bit surprised. Can I share this? You can cut it out if you don't want me to. But like, I just came home from the weekend. I'd been away and Claude's living with me at the moment. And I get into the bathroom and there's a sex toy just there, obviously having been dried. And the sex toy
I think it
cleaner.
was actually, okay, well, let me fact check that. It was the base of a sex toy, actually.
Oh, that's
it
good
wasn't
to know,
an
because
actual
I'm kind of
sex
looking
toy.
at this thing thinking, I'm an expert. I should know what this is. I'm like, how do
No, it's a suction for a base of a glass toy. But it's
okay.
like I cleaned it all together without taking it out, and then I
Yeah.
took it out, and it was like I was just letting it air dry.
Well, you know what I thought it was? I thought it was, so there's these vibrators which you use if you have a clitoris, and they sort of are more sucky.
Yeah,
so they've got a
yeah.
little kind of
It's quite a
whole
big
area
hole,
that's
though.
sort of.
That would be like the whole vagina.
Exactly. But this bit sort of like had quite a big sort of, I'm like, is that a big sucky thing? Like what part? And I'm like, oh, that's very interesting. Must ask Claude.
Yes.
Yeah. But anyway, but the point I was trying to make is, you know, I came back and I saw that. And my first reaction is still like, oh, that's a bit of an overshare.
Well, actually about 5 minutes before you came home, there were about 30 sex toys drying in the bathroom. And I was like, well, I should probably put those away before Mum gets back.
30.
Well, it needed to clean. And it was just a good opportunity because you were away for the weekend.
Oh, God, that reminds me. Years and years ago when you were really little and I was doing promotions for a sex toy brand, and they had sent me about like 15 or something different ones. And I had them all in my bedroom, just all arrayed. And your older brother, who would have been about 12 at the time,
Right.
he came in and he was like, oh, Mum, do you have to have all your vibrators out? I had a moment of like, is this a good thing?
Well, should I have my vibrators
And
out?
then I think you and your little brother came in and you're like, oh, toys. You know, oh, they're pretty and pink.
Iconic. Anyway,
Language. Moving on.
Lingua. Wait, no. What's
Yes.
language in Italian?
Lingua.
Oh, guys. Sorry. Don't doubt yourself.
Well, and you sort of did a little bit of an entree, even though we sort of kind of then
Veered off
into other places, sex toyish and blah, blah, blah. And, you know. So before that, where you were talking about how you and Mr. T are using cool language to kind of get to an intimate act.
I wouldn't call it cool language. I'd call it like a specific language.
Well, yeah, and that's part of the point that I want to make, right? Because a lot of the language that we use in our society and our culture, and, you know, I'm talking about the English language here, it's not very sexy. And it's not very erotic, and it's not very enticing.
Doesn't sound like something I want to do.
Yeah. And I loved a couple of those terms that you just used. You said, do you want to play?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, what kind of vibe are you feeling? Right? That's so much better than, do you want to have sex? Or, oh, I'm horny, are you?
Yeah. Or, while the kids are asleep.
Yeah, look, like for some people that might work. And if that works for you, you know, I actually thinking back to when, you know, you kids were little and sort of like, hey, you know, while the kids are asleep, or hey, they're downstairs occupied with their breakfast and we're in the bathroom. You know, like the you know, you can play with that, right? But a lot of it is just, it's just can be too direct, it can be too unsexy. You know, I used the case in one of our earlier recordings of the client who came to see me who was saying to his wife, do you want a root? And bizarrely, she didn't. And we solved that by changing the language. Yeah.
What did he change to?
I can't remember what he changed to, but it wasn't that.
Something much more beautiful, I imagine.
Well, yeah, look, it can be playful, it can be erotic, it can be insinuating something. I mean, I personally like the word amorous. You're feeling amorous? I'm feeling a little amorous, especially if I'm expressing me. Feeling a little amorous now. Whereas if I say, hey, I'm feeling horny, I don't know, like that
yeah. I tried the amorous one a few months ago and he was like, oh, that's nice, darling. And I was like, no, I'm feeling amorous in a sex way.
And you know what? I just like just playing with language, you know.
And he was like, oh, right, yes, okay, yes, right.
Yeah, you know, like what works for you, you know, and it also reflects the kind of mood that you're in as well, you know, whether you're feeling kind of a little bit more like amorous or like, you like the word playful because I think you've got like this quite strong playful element to.
Well, it also just because fun little share from me today. Because my life is quite sex focused, there's pressure that's opposite to what I imagine the pressure is for everyone else, which is like I've got to make it the most amazing, truly connecting experience of authenticity that I can. And so therefore I get really serious about it. I'm like locked in about doing it perfectly. And so I need the like silliness just to remind myself like, no, actually this is not you're not getting marked on a test.
Yes.
This is
Yeah.
you're not like hitting boxes of
Yeah.
of how authentic your sex is. You're just having fun. So yeah, that's
Exactly. And that is, in fact, paradoxically, authentic sex.
mm-hmm.
Yes. That reminds me, though, like, when, in past times when I've been, like, dating and stuff, and I remember someone saying to me, God, you being a sex expert and all that must intimidate the guys, And I'm like, them, what do you think about me? What about the pressure on me? What if I'm a dud fuck? But then, yes, I came to the same place that you came to, and it's just
but also there's pressure on you to like, well, I assume, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's pressure on you to educate your men as well. Well,
look, I think there's pressure on everybody to kind of educate their partners, regardless of what you know and don't know. But yes, I'm often bringing people up to
your standards.
Well, yeah, just so that they kind of know more. And but particularly my approach. Yeah. I think it's important.
Anyway, what are some examples? Yeah, give us some examples of bad, and then good.
Yeah, well, that one about like how you introduce the topic and how you get to it, what kind of language you use, I think is a really important one. But, like there's some words that are really helpful and some that aren't very helpful. Like there's some words that are really good if you're talking more clinically, but aren't very sexy. Like masturbation is one of them. Perfectly useful word, use it a lot clinically. But, how do you feel about masturbating? Like for me, it's not a very sexy word. And sadly, because of our history of sex and shame, the word masturbation often just almost unconsciously carries with it sort of shame type, guilt type vibes, right? Personally, I love the word self-pleasuring because it is all about pleasuring oneself, and the focus is then on pleasure.
Yeah.
Another term I like, actually this comes from the Taoist Chinese traditions, which is solo cultivation, which is there are certain practices that you can do, particularly if you're a penis owner, where you're cultivating your ability to manage your arousal and be really in touch with your sexuality. I think it applies to any gender. That, if you're seeing it as a way of cultivating yourself, it's also like mindful practice, so mindful practice of pleasure. The other word I just like is simply solo sex, right?
Yes.
There is partnered sex, there is solo sex. And solo sex is this lovely thing we do in our own time and space to have some pleasure for ourselves.
Yeah. I just put it, I think I've talked about this before, but I put it under the envelope of self-care.
Yes. Self-care.
Yeah. So I have a self-care routine and it's in there,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. And it's in there with the meditation and the yoga and the lying down, reading books and having cups of tea. Anyway, so other words that are very useful, sort of in a more just practical clinical setting, are our terms for our genitals. I mean, even the word genitals isn't very sexy, is it?
No.
But even, penis, vagina, vulva, very good word. We need to use that. That's the external female genitalia, but not very sexy. Again, going back to the Tao of the Chinese, the ancient Chinese, oh my God, they had such poetic words. The cinnabar crevice and the jade stalk. Can you imagine inviting the jade stalk into the cinnabar crevice? Like it's just, I don't know, there's just more oomph to it, I think. Yeah. But even, like playful terms like honeypot or bajingo.
Bajingo?
The joystick.
What's a bajingo?
I don't know. Someone refers to her lady parts as bajingo.
Fair enough.
Why not? Like it's something that resonates, like, for the penis owners, there's your joystick. I kind of like joystick, like joyful. It's a joyful term. Or
what do you think about disco stick?
Disco stick?
Yeah, that's a Lady Gaga lyric.
Oh, is it?
Let's have some fun. This beat is sick. I want to take a ride on your disco stick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And even that language, like, I want to take a ride on, going back to your empowerment when you're on top, I love that. Like language also that makes you feel empowered.
Yeah. Which is great segue, girly.
Into my least favorite word of all, which I'm sure if you are familiar with me and my work, you will be familiar with my dislike of this word, penetration. Very, very disempowering word, which sadly has become the most common term for referring to the act of intercourse when a penis and vagina come together and have a good time. So the trouble with the word penetration is one, it is a violent term that means breaking through resistance. Yes. And if you think about being penetrated, your body automatically constricts, which is the opposite to what you want to do for an act of love. It also puts the onus on the owner of the penis as the penetrator.
Yeah.
Right? So we're reinforcing that tired old trope that sex or intercourse is something that a male with a penis does to a resistant vagina. Yeah?
Breaking through.
Yeah. And in fact, I was chatting to someone just yesterday and I was saying, also using the word, because every time one of my friends uses the term, I have to correct them, right? And it came up and I said to him, and that just puts more pressure on the men as well. Because, they're the ones who have to penetrate. They're the ones that have got to come on in and do it all and get it right. So it's really not at all. And it's just not mutual.
No.
It's not mutual.
It's also like ugly.
And it's ugly.
Yeah.
And it's ugly. And I'm big on beauty and all of that sort of thing. So, so think about invitation, envelopment, embracing the vagina embraces the penis. All right, if you need a word for what the penis is doing, why don't we just say enter? Yeah. Why does it have to penetrate? Why doesn't it just enter?
Yeah, come inside.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Be welcome. Yes. Join.
Like
merge.
a vampire.
I don't know. There's so many good words we could use. Yet we use one that is aggressive. So let's change that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I use I want to be as close as physically possible.
Ah, that's a nice one.
Yeah.
That's a nice one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, what about language that if you're trying to be seductive?
Seductive language.
Yeah, to try and not manipulate the other person into doing what you want, but getting what you want.
Ah, yes. And that's that whole, what is seduction?
Yeah.
What's the difference between seduction and manipulation? Well, essentially it's for your mutual benefit. That's the difference, right? Because in a way, seduction is manipulative because you're trying to get the other person to do what you want. But the key point is that it's for your mutual benefit.
Yeah, the other person does want to do it.
Yes, and you're making sure. And in fact, that's where language is so important because the kind of language that you're using does become inviting, enticing. Yes?
Yeah.
It's like, I'd like to do this and I think you might like to as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So that's also about tone of voice. Yeah. Yeah. So, and again, look, if we can focus just for a moment more on just using words that are ugly or unenticing. So a lot of people say that the ugliest word in the English language is moist. Well, I beg to differ. For me, the ugliest word in the English language is squirt.
You're moist. I raise you squirt.
Yes. Moist squirting moistly. Yeah. I don't actually have a problem with the word moist, but anyway, but squirt. So,
moist people have a problem with it.
Ba-boom. I don't know if this is going to work with people who don't have English as a first language anyway. But squirt. So let's just talk about squirting for a moment because it's become quite common in the sexual vernacular that when women release the liquid, it's referred to as squirting.
Yes, and it is the liquid. It is not piss.
Yes.
All right?
Yes.
If you need some clarification, go listen to the Women's Bodies episode.
Indeed.
Female, not female ejaculate.
Well, yeah, because it's sometimes referred to as the female ejaculate or female ejaculation. Again, why are we using a male term? But it's not actually an ejaculation. It's more like think of it as a gush.
Yeah.
Or a release.
Yeah.
And I particularly like to bring both of those terms, squirt and female ejaculation, together. Let's call it the release of ambrosia.
Yeah.
Again, it's terms that come from the ancient traditions where they actually saw it as the elixir of life. And they called it an ambrosia or an elixir.
Imagine, so me, one of the things that I'm part of my Great Sex 2025 is I can feel my bladder filling up, but I haven't been able to release a full gush. Apparently I can do a little here and there, but no full gush. Anyway, so sometimes when I feel that feeling, I'm in my brain and I'm like, oh my God, I can feel it. And before I was going, oh my God, I'm going to squirt. Oh my God, am I going to squirt? Ugh, disgusting.
Yes.
now it's oh my God, am I gonna get gush? Oh my God, I can feel it filling up. Oh my God, when am I gonna release this ember? You know? That's aiding to the cause.
Yes.
It's helping the cause. It's
yes.
you know?
Yes. And also like if that you're not doing that, that's perfectly fine as well.
Yeah,
Like, we don't know whether you should or you shouldn't or whatever. Like,
yeah, because no one's done any fucking research into sexual.
Yeah, I don't think I started kind of doing it till I was older, actually. Yeah. I don't know. It wasn't even a thing when I was younger. People didn't. Wasn't. Yeah. Anyway. So those are some words that I feel are.
Yeah. And what I was talking about before, it's like it's not like a goal that I have to be able to release my ambrosia, but it's just I want to be able to like focus in on that feeling more, you know?
Yeah.
And using enticing language makes me actually want to do that.
Yeah.
You know? And it helps me stay in that mindset.
Yes.
Rather than like pulling me out of it or making me focus on something kind of ugly.
Yeah.
You know? Even though it's the same thing, it's just like one helps me more than the other.
Absolutely. And that's why so much of, the approach I'm encouraging here is about concepts and language, right? So that, what you're saying there is just so perfect. Like when you're focusing down, in the pelvic, in the sexual area, and you've got positive thoughts and positive language and positive concepts around it, because otherwise people get all tight, and like, oh, I've got to come. Am I going to come? Oh my God, I'm being penetrated. Like, do I squirt? Like, okay, Jacqueline, not ejaculate. It's like, oh my God. Like, it's just, when in fact, what we need to do is relax and feel embodied and connected within ourselves, with our partner.
And it's also like defining it for yourself opposed to like trying to meet something that's already been defined. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for me, like release is way more open-ended than what I imagine a squirt is, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Right. So really, we're just giving you some ideas here. So it's very much for you to, some of these words that, I might say I like, you might go, I don't like that.
Yeah,
and that is totally fine.
I don't like using amorous anymore. After
fine. Yeah. No, whatever works for you. And another one that's really common is what word do you actually use for the act, right? Do you say have sex?
Yeah.
I mean, it's useful. Do you want to have sex? Do I like having sex? I mean, look, it's fine, but is that, make love? Like some people find that too, too romantic or too, some people have a root, have a shag. If that works for you, that's fine.
Yeah. Right? I feel like if it's more in that like quick, fast, it's like, do you want to fuck? Let's fuck.
Yeah, sometimes let's fuck can be a fun, again, it depends. Also, it's good to have this range of language depending on the mood that you're in.
I think we have fuck, play, and like connection time or something. I don't really know, but there's I guess we don't have a word for the third yet. But those are the like three.
For the what?
For the third one yet. Connection time was just what I've pulled from the ether. It's not our actual word, but those are our like three modes that we moved through, depending on the context.
We should put some stuff up on Instagram and get people to send in the words they like.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but any of our lover listeners, if you want to send in any ideas, any thoughts, that would be great.
Words that you like.
Yeah. And then I just want to add, I think, one more category. And actually, sometimes the clinical terms are actually more erotic than the more colloquial terms. And I think the language that we use for oral sex is like that. Yeah. Because, giving a BJ, sucking off, some of those words are, I don't know, they're not very enticing, I think, right? Whereas fellatio, kind of not a bad word, really. Kind of lingers. I don't know, for me, but of course, you're probably getting the sense that I like these. I like language. I like these kind of words. I like poetry.
Flowery.
A bit flowery, yeah. Maybe, I do like that personally, yeah. So those words for me sound better than going down.
I like, are you hungry?
Are you hungry? Oh, yeah, like eating out. That's like, I don't like, do you want to, can I eat you out? I'm like, ooh, no, you're not. Like, chomp, chomp, chomp. That doesn't appeal. I don't think I could use a "you're hungry" like that.
I think it's like, "Are you hungry? Would you like a taste?" But that's because I like it to be silly and like,
yeah.
And then my Labrador boyfriend isn't very enthusiastic. Like, yes. Well, unless he's not, but like,
yeah. Yeah. I quite
Situation dependent.
I sometimes will refer to I'm going down.
Yeah.
And just kind of waiting for that little, little connection that, yep, that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than just sort of assuming that it's going to be okay.
Mm.
Yeah. So anyway, so those are a bunch of words.
Yeah. Got to find the ones that work for you.
Mm.
But also I think what's important for your words is also defining what it means for you,
Yes.
Because you can't just say sex without knowing what sex means for you. So like for me, sex is playful and it makes love. Therefore I use do you want to play? Do you want to make love?
Mm. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So you've got to define the thing.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of homework for our lover listeners to actually think about, what are these words? How do you feel when you use these words? Or even think about what are you trying to convey? What is that feeling? And then, explore different words, different language. And particularly if you are in a relationship, have the conversation with your partner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I would say practice, like, instead of asking what the other person wants, practice sharing what you want.
Yes.
So instead of like, hey, would you like to have sex? Be like, hey, I want to have sex. How do you feel about it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, that goes back to one of our earlier episodes too.
Yeah. But still, the little shifts that help your brain feeling good about it.
Yeah. And another little tip for our lover listeners, like if you are talking to your partner and you're saying, one says, I like this kind of word or this type of language, and the other one's like, oh, I don't really.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that. That's fine. Just talk about, well, what is it about that language that you like? So when you get down to the feeling, like your personal meaning behind specific words, then you may well be able to find other words that reflect that feeling that work for your partner.
Yeah. It's kind of like frying an egg,
Frying an egg.
Or cooking an egg, sorry. It's like you want an egg, but sunny side up, poached,
Yes.
boiled.
Excellent analogy, my darling.
Yeah. Lots of different ways to have eggs.
Yeah, exactly. And you can probably find a way that you can both enjoy. Yes. All right. Very good.
So one single listener question.
Oh, questions. I love this because it just gets thrown at me out of nowhere. It's so exciting. Yes.
Me and my partner haven't had sex for a really long time.
Yes.
And I don't know how to start having conversations about it.
Yes.
Advice.
Actually, very common client type in my clinic where couples haven't been having sex for quite some time and don't know how to get started. So one obvious solution would be to come and see me or someone like me. But if you want to raise it with your partner, then yes, be gentle about it. And just come in, sweetheart, something I'd like to talk about. We haven't really, and again, language, what kind of language are you using? If you're coming in with like, we haven't had sex for ages and I'm really annoyed, like that's not very.
I'm your husband, I have needs.
Yeah, so I'm your wife and I have needs or whatever it happens to be. Yeah, like always come in with curiosity and compassion.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you might be feeling a bit awkward. They're probably feeling a bit awkward. The fact that you haven't been having sex and you haven't been talking about it means that there's probably some awkwardness there.
Some tension.
Yeah. So you start by you just sharing of yourself. Hey, sweetheart, something I want to talk about, something that's been bothering me. We haven't been intimate for a while. Be careful about the language you use. And then say how it makes you feel. Right. And I really miss that. Right. I love our closeness and, I'm not quite sure how to approach this. So I'm hoping this is okay. Curious as to how you feel about it. Pause. Don't go on and on and on and on and on. Just pause and let your partner, have a moment or more to kind of, oh, okay. Oh, where's that coming from? Or, oh, that's sort of a bit embarrassing. Or, what do you mean by that? I mean, your partner will respond in some way. So give them a little bit of time just to process the question and the topic. Yeah. So just sit there quietly. Yeah. Maybe put a hand on their lap or something and just say, hey, just curious. Really like to have this conversation, even though it's a bit tricky. But one thing that I want to stress is, because too often I find when people come to me and they've been talking about sex, it's been heavy. It's just been talking about the problems and so forth. So what I really encourage you to do is to keep the lightness in there. Right? So if you're talking to your partner, you're going, oh, this is terrible and this isn't happening and why isn't it happening? Oh, my God, which is really unsexy. is kind of like, I'm curious and, it's a lovely thing to do and really missing it. And I think it's, would be beautiful. And I don't know how we get back to it, but I want to have this positive conversation around it and throw in lots of the good reasons. I love the touch. I love the connection. We always feel better afterwards. So before you go into it, really be thinking about me. What is it that I want from this? Why is this an issue for me? And try and frame it as positively and, as enticingly, as safely, because it needs to be a safe conversation. Yeah. So that is my advice on how to approach it. Yeah.
Nice.
Nice.
So, yeah. Just be nice to your partner, really.
Yeah.
And be brave.
Yes. You have to be brave. And keep in mind that, your partner is probably open to having a lovely experience with you. It's just, what are the expectations? And
yeah. And I guess you don't really need to solve anything. You just need to talk about it.
You just need to talk about it. Yeah. And you certainly don't need to solve it in one conversation. Yeah. Yes. And I suppose the other thing to say there as well is, again, the nonlinear approach. Like, you're not focusing on how you're getting your genitals together. You're actually focusing on how do we connect?
Yeah.
What makes us feel relaxed enough and safe enough to want to get naked, to want to play with our genitals. Yeah. Which often means what comes before. Yeah. Yes. But you can do this. You got it.
Yeah.
You got it. You can have this conversation. Yes.
It'll be worth it.
Yes. Just think of Claude and Jacqueline in the background. What would they say?
Think about all the amazing sex that you're going to have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that's it for today, everyone.
Woohoo!
Woo!
Yay.
You use lingua e bella. Bella lingua. Bella lingua.
Claude's heading over to Italy in a few months, and so he's brushing up on
some really excellent Italian. Really good at it.
Well, you are a quarter Italian.
Yeah, I could probably do this podcast in Italian. That's how good I am at it.
Not.
But yeah, sarcasm.
I'm trying to think of something encouraging to say in Italian, but I can't think of anything. Is it bene, bene?
Molto bene.
Molto bene.
Anyway.
Molto bene. Lingua molto bene. Lingua. Anyway, ciao.
But before we go,
oh yes,
if you want to see this is a vodcast. One of my favorite words, vodcast. So if you want to watch us, you can go to YouTube. Otherwise, you'll find us on Instagram at My Mum's a Sex Therapist. And if you want to see more of my mum.
www.jacquelinehellier.com or Instagram jacqueline.hellier.
Yeah. Also TikTok. We're on TikTok.
Oh yeah, we're on TikTok now. Yes.
Yeah.
And YouTube is the Jacqueline Hellier site. Yeah. Yes. So what's it called? A vodcast? The vodcast is on the Jacqueline Hellier YouTube channel, along with a whole bunch of other really good videos as well, which go back from when I think the first ones are from 2009 when I was in my early days. So, yeah, you can actually see, you can watch Jacqueline age through the videos.
Yeah, but until next time, we release this podcast. I don't know what my schedule is going to be, guys. I feel like I'm going to release them. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know when they're coming out. I'll let you know when I know, though.
Yeah, just pay attention.
Yeah, turn the post notifications on. There you go. Yeah. Until next time, hope you love your life.
Fun. Love life.
Bye.
Ciao.